The first thing to say about adjustment is bike fit. It's something that is very important. If you've got a hand-me-down bike or you've managed to find a bike, the frame may not be spot on for you, so you just have to make do with that. But if the frame is drastically the wrong size, if you're 6'2" and you're riding a bike that's designed for someone who's 5'2", you're not going to get on, and you've got to start out with the right size frame for your health as much as anything, because you can damage joints if you're riding the wrong size frame. Likewise, if you've got a really big bike and you're quite small, you could well fall off and hurt yourself, which is not great. It's very difficult to stop and put a foot down and actually control the bike properly if it's way too big for you. So with that said, this frame is actually a little bit too small for me. It's my dad's old bike and he was a bit shorter than me. And you can see that I've got this set up about how I would normally have it. I've got a slight bend in the knee here, as I'm sat with my heel over the axle of the pedal. And that's a rough guideline for the seat being in the right kind of place. It means you've got a nice angle on the leg here as you pedal and cycle the pedal. So this frame isn't too bad, but it's a little bit smaller than I would normally choose for myself because it's a hand-me-down bike, but I've made it fit. So let's go through the areas of adjustment we can use to make a bike fit us. Okay guys, so this is the main area of adjustment we have on a bike. The saddle and seat. Now there's actually 4 ways to adjust this saddle. A lot of people think it only goes up and down, but there's a lot more to it than that. So let's have a quick look at what we can actually do to make this fit us. Allen keys, very, very useful. I've got my nice home set of Allen keys here. I don't take these out with me because I always lose 5mm Allen keys. I must have gone through 20 of the things. Anyway, so it's normally a 5mm Allen key if it's not a quick release style seat tube. Seat clamp. This is called the seat post clamp, this little bit here. Some bikes have them separate, some have them built into the frame like this one. So as you can see, just releasing that off means I can make this bike fit someone quite short or quite tall. Hazeltide, I haven't prepped for this video at all, so everything is exactly as it is. There's something very important about seat posts that you should know before you start adjusting them. I'm just going to wipe this off here because you will find on this seat post, and I hope the camera focuses okay on that, but there's actually a sort of dashed line across this seat post right here, and it says max limit, okay? This is a really long seat post. You might find that they're only sort of half the length of this almost. This is a long one, and that is as far as it should ever stick out from the seat tube. You must never be able to see that line, because you only then have actually a couple of inches. I wouldn't really be happy with just that in my seat tube. It's probably perfectly safe, but there we go. So that is one, and the primary method of getting the bike to fit you, is lifting that up and down. The other bit of adjustment people forget about is left and right, actually. These saddles can actually swivel, and it's horribly uncomfortable if you have it pointing the wrong way. If it's off by just a few degrees, it can make you very uncomfortable. Some people actually prefer a very slight, generally the men I have to say, a slight left or right to it, if that's what fits you. But generally speaking, make sure, just look down and make sure it is straight ahead along the seat tube of the bike, looking down on it, and tighten it up. These don't need a great deal of tightening, they just have to hold firm, and it's a very strong clamp that, so don't over tighten it because you'll never get it undone again. So that is the primary way, up and down, of adjusting the seat. Okay, so the next way these seats adjust is along these rails here, and underneath the seat there's a clamp. These can operate in a couple of ways actually. Sometimes you find they have a bolt horizontally through, some of the older style ones, and you actually need a spanner either side to undo the bolt to get all this adjustment. This one just uses a shim and bolt straight up through. You can see where the Allen key goes in it there. Ooh, that does sound healthy, doesn't it? And you just slacken it off a bit like that. See? Now this gives us our other 2 methods of adjustment. Now the first one is forwards and backwards. This seat can sit all the way back like that, or it can sit all the way forward like that. Neither of them are particularly comfortable for me, I have to say, and you should avoid the real extremes. If you've got the clamp butted right up against this bend in the tube, the saddle is significantly weaker, and if you put all your weight through the back of that saddle, you could actually bend this. This is a really lightweight saddle with titanium tubes as well, so they are quite fragile, but any saddle you need to be a little bit careful of that. But anyway, you've got at least a centimetre fore and aft from centre of adjustment, and that can be critical in just getting your weight straight over the pedals and giving you the sort of cockpit room in that direction over the bike. So that's a really important area of adjustment, and once you've got your seat height pretty much spot on, you might want to just experiment. If you feel like you're perched on the tip of the saddle the whole time, just shift the saddle forwards a little bit to support your weight better. If you feel like you're falling off the back of the saddle or you can't get enough room on the bike, you can just pull it back a little bit, and that can give you the balance you need on the bike, so that's an important thing to get right. The last area of adjustment on the saddle is tilt, and a lot of people don't know that these even tilt, but what you can see is this is a curved face on this, and this bracket has a curved underneath as well. There are sort of slight striations, I suppose, sort of on it that just just going to move that a bit into the frame. There are slight striations on it that just hold it in place once you've got the thing set. So you can get a fairly substantial downwards angle on it, and you can get a fairly substantial upwards angle on it. Now what you find quite often is if these are a little bit loose, or they're not the best clamp in the world, they're pretty cheap, or if people have their saddle too far back and sit heavily on it, over time the saddle will tend to end up like that. It's kind of the BMX bike position where it's pointing 10 degrees up at the front, and that can be really, really uncomfortable because it places loads of pressure on this front part of the saddle, which goes straight through all your soft bits, boy or girl, and you don't really want that. So it's important just to have a quick look, and you sort of adjust it like that and stand back and think, yeah, that looks about horizontal to me. And generally starting from a horizontal start point is the best start point. Then you can just adjust it, and it is minute adjustments on this. It will be a couple of degrees either way, just to get it to suit your the way you sit on the bike, really. The saddle makes a big difference in that. Some are designed to be really very padded at the back and very sort of comfortable to sit back on. Others like this are much more racy and are designed to sort of bear your weight through your sit bones a bit more, and sometimes these can stand a little bit more of an upwards angle at the front, but it's just a personal thing. You're just going to have to get used to it, but it's important to know that the adjustment is there, and that if the saddle starts to give you problems, particularly if you start to feel numb or tender in your sensitive bits, then you need to adjust that, probably nose down a little bit to take the pressure off that. You shouldn't be bearing weight through that sensitive area between the legs. So there you go, that's the 4 ways of adjusting a saddle. Always make sure you tighten them up nicely. That's completely out of adjustment for me now, so I get to reset all of that next time I ride this bike, which is good fun. So there we go, that's how to adjust your saddle.